that was beautiful and inspiring. Our scripture reading this morning is from Exodus chapter 13. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, although that was nearer, for God thought, if the people face war, they may change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led the people by the roundabout way of the wilderness bordering the Red Sea. The Israelites went up out of the land of Egypt, prepared for battle. And Moses took with him the bones of Joseph, who had required a solemn oath of the Israelites, saying, God will surely come to you, and then you must carry my bones with you from here. They set out from Succoth and camped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. The Lord went in front of them in a pillar of cloud by day to lead them along the way, and in a pillar of fire by night to give them light, so that they might travel by day and by night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. Thanks be to God.
Thank you, Sue, for the reading, and thank you, John, for that beautiful, beautiful music. As I stand here at the pulpit today, I want to be very honest about something. I know that sometimes the sermon part of a service can be very boring. And I know that sometimes it can be very heavy. And the world is very heavy right now. So in the face of such despair, it is good to have a little fun and change things up every once in a while. After all, 30 of us are itching to get on the road. And we don't want to sit in those cars with a heavy, heavy message in our hearts. And church, like life, should be an adventure, right? Pastor Zigrid are preaching the stories from Vacation Bible Adventure throughout July. And last week, I told you that we ought to look at this month like VBA for adults. But is there a way to take our worship time and give you a grown-up version of what the kids get to experience? Well, maybe. Every night at Vacation Bible Adventure, the kids learn just one story, but they get to explore the story through various stations: science, drama, games, snacks, and music. And if we explore today's Bible passage through just 3 different activities, maybe we'll have a little fun too. After all, the story of the Exodus has been told throughout the centuries, so there are myriad ways to look at it. This morning, we are going to explore this Exodus passage as it has been illustrated by others in artwork and in music and in poetry. Are you game for a little adventure? Yes. In Exodus 13, we read that God went before the Israelites as a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night, providing both protection from the blazing sun and light to guide their steps through the twilight. Let's see what that has meant to other people throughout the years. We'll begin with a reflection of this Exodus passage as seen through art. I am not going to ask you to make the art or a craft project. I do not have enough glue sticks or paint to go around. So first, a little bit about the artist we're going to hear about today. William West, the 19th century English artist who painted the piece titled "The Israelites Passing Through the Wilderness, Preceded by the Pillar of Light." He experienced his own kind of wilderness. After years of exhibiting his work in prestigious venues, he disappeared from the public art scene for nearly 2 decades. And during that time, he poured his energy into science and engineering. He even carved a tunnel through solid rock to open a cave for public viewing. But it was a strange and quiet season of invention and uncertainty, a time of wandering away from the canvas that had once defined him. Then in the mid-1840s, West returned to painting with renewed purpose, this time focusing on the powerful biblical image of God guiding the Israelites through the wilderness, as if something in him had been reignited. Let's go ahead and take a look at the painting. West painted this dramatic scene based on Exodus 13, verse 21. It is a narrow pillar of light streaming down from the heavens, illuminating a tiny band of figures below. The setting is really rough and rugged, surrounded by towering rock formations and a cavernous valley. This is not my mind's imagination of that trek, but it was his. It's much rockier, it's much steeper, far more boulders than I had ever envisioned. Now, if we zoom in, this is that little middle part of the painting that we can see something there if we zoom in, although not super clearly. There is Moses, the Ark of the Covenant, and some weary travelers. Now let's look at the whole picture one more time and zoom back out. God, who sees them so clearly, those figures in the bottom, even though we cannot, is, according to the artist, the God who shines God's own light upon them with unwavering focus. Now, I chose to share this image for two reasons. First, I find it so interesting that our focus is immediately brought to the light beam itself, right? When you look at this picture, you see the light beam before you're ever going to see those teeny tiny figures. The people are almost hidden. We have to super search for them amid the almost white light that washes over the basin. This piece emphasizes God's power, when so many interpretations of the text that we read emphasize the experience of the people. Second, we actually know very little about the artist's own religious beliefs. Despite deep research, there is no clear record of William West's faith or spiritual life. Trust me, I've looked. That absence invites us to wonder, what drew him to this story? What stirred in him the desire to paint this moment from Scripture? Perhaps West, like many of us, knew what it was like to walk through uncertain seasons, searching for direction. Maybe his painting of the pillar of light piercing through the wilderness is more than historical imagination. Maybe it's his testimony. Like the Israelites, he found his way again, guided by a light that was always just ahead, calling him forward. He returned to the work that once gave him his life: art, vision, and his voice. Thank you. Now, if we're going to examine this Exodus story through a different media, we can take this picture off the screen and just go back to the sermon slide. Then we're going to have to look at this through music also. Music is super important, right? Music is sacred. There are so many classical masterpieces to choose from, all inspired by the Exodus passages. There's Arnold Schoenberg's opera, Moses and Aaron. There's Ernest Hawkes' Cantata of the Bitter Herbs, and Robert Nathaniel Dett's oratorio, The Ordering of Moses. Oh, and let us not forget George Friedrich Handel's masterpiece, Israel in Egypt. And with so many to choose from, I decided to go with the most obvious song, the classic that children have been learning in churches and summer camps for generations. Move over, Handel. We're making room for Pharaoh, Pharaoh, by the ever-popular musician named Artist Unknown. It is to the classic tune, Louie, Louie, and I promise you have probably heard this before. Now, teaching stories through music allows us to hear the story and remember it. The lyrics offer us a condensed version of events in the life of Moses and his people. In Pharaoh, Pharaoh, we will hear the arc of the Israelites' narrative. Moses called by God through the burning bush, Pharaoh's army chasing the Israelites, and God parting the Red Sea, and the ultimate victory over Pharaoh. Now, although this wasn't one of our VBA songs this year, it very well could have been. I grew up singing this song at Vacation Bible School, and I'm going to teach you the song and the motions. Get excited. You are invited to stand if you would like, or you can do this from your seat if you prefer. Are you ready for a little fun? Okay, are we ready, Alex? Okay, here we go. Ready? Stand up if you want.
Oh,
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. For those of you who are coming on the mission trip, I don't have to do the talent show anymore. I just checked that box. See? Who needs Ernest Hawkes' cantata of the bitter herbs? Jesus once said that we must become like children to enter the kingdom of heaven. And perhaps this is exactly what he meant, moments like this, that our ancient faith stories come alive, not when we approach them only with scholarly seriousness, but when we let ourselves be surprised by joy, moved by rhythm, unashamed of looking a little silly in the process. Speaking of children and wonder, poet George Oppen found his own moment of discovery when he sat with his daughter reading the same Exodus story. George Oppen was a prominent American poet who was born into a Jewish family in 1908. His own life was complex, with lots of twists and turns, creating George's layered identity. Although Jewish by birth, later in life he embraced a more secular lifestyle, and he eventually even joined the Communist Party. He spent time living on both coasts of the US, New York and California, and then he would also live in Mexico and Paris, France. His experiences in these different places with different groups of people shaped all of his views, from religious to political. George Oppen also was a practitioner of something called objectivism. It's a school of poetry that emphasizes simplicity and clarity over a formal structure and rhyme. As I read his poem Exodus, I'm going to ask that you look at the structure on the screen, and I try to copy and paste it according to his original form. I will read it aloud. Miracle of the children, the brilliant children, the word liquid as woodlands children. When she was a child, I read Exodus to my daughter, the children of Israel, pillar of fire, pillar of cloud. We stared at the end into each other's eyes. Where, she said, hushed, were the adults? We dreamed to each other. Miracle of the children, the brilliant children, miracle of their brilliance, miracle of. Few things catch my attention as I read this poem. First, we can see Oppen's Jewish identity remained with him in some ways. But is the subject of this poem really the Exodus, or is it the children? He writes in awe of his own daughter's wonder and intelligence, sharing a memory from when he read her the story of their people. Perhaps she sparked his curiosity about the Israelite children who had wandered with their families through the wilderness, a perspective I have often forgotten. The format of this poem is wandering. The erratic spacing makes it interesting to follow. The form is symbolic of the Exodus itself. Also, when Oppen says in the poem, we stared at the end into each other's eyes, he echoes his values as a poet, his insistence on shared concrete experience over abstract doctrine. Perhaps Oppen sees himself in the Exodus, a man who left behind the faith of his childhood, crossed ideological and geographic borders, and wrestled with what it meant to belong. Oppen knew something about wandering. But even in that journey, he found moments of grounding in a child's questions, in the act of reading an old story anew, in the simple miracle of looking another human being in the eyes. Like the Israelites, he moved forward not by certainty, but by light, by presence, by memory, by hope. Oppen ends the poem with an unfinished thought, simply miracle of. I'm not sure what to make of that. Maybe it speaks to the unending openness of a child, the miraculous trek of the youngest Israelites. Or perhaps it reflects an unfinished journey and an unfinished miracle. As we have walked and danced through the Exodus story today, through a painting of shadows and light, through the joyfulness of a silly song, and through a meandering poem, we have discovered that every lens reveals a very different perspective. The same divine light that guided the Israelites through the wilderness continues to illuminate human understanding of that same story. It reminds me of the four Gospels, each a different account of Jesus' life and ministry. For every disciple of Jesus, those named and those unnamed, there were different versions of the same experiences. So thank you for humoring me today and going on this most unusual sermon adventure. It was a departure from our traditional approach, and you are all very good sports. And preparing for this has made me think, perhaps God invites us to become artists of our own faith journeys, viewing the ancient stories through our unique experiences and our creativity and our own questions. May we trust that the same divine presence that never left the Israelites will never leave us as we continue to wander and wonder and worship by day and by night.